Video games reached mainstream popularity in the 1970s and 1980s, when arcade games, gaming consoles, and computer games were introduced to the general public. Since then, they have become a popular form of entertainment and a part of modern culture in most parts of the world, with many great video games being released throughout the years. Welcome to Who's Number 1. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at the top 10 video games of all time. These games are the most popular, best looking, best written and realized, and most impactful video games ever. In short, they are the best of the best, most of them revolutionizing the way video games are created. We have not included games such as Tetris, Minecraft, or League of Legends on this list because, despite their popularity and importance in the development of video games, they are not story-driven. Before starting with the list, be sure to let us know what you think is the greatest video game of all time, and why, in the comments section below. Now, with that said, let's get to it. Number 10, Dark Souls. Dark Souls was named the ultimate game of all time at the 2021 edition of the Golden Joystick Awards, and not for nothing. From the moment you start Dark Souls, you begin to realize that it's a different type of game. It is renowned for its enemy variety and combat sequences, and enemy encounters like skeletons, drakes, and Baldur Knights are profoundly engaging on an inexplicable level. Developed by From Software and released in 2011, the game's dark and ambiguous world and characters, combined with flawlessly precise combat, create an experience that would be crowned the hardest game of all time, but this identity feels like a misconception, a failure to recognize the excellence at the core of Dark Souls, and how it has grown so impeccably influential. Number 9, Bloodborne. Bloodborne not only offers a brilliant cosmic horror story, but it is also a strong contender for the best game From Software has ever made. The underlying theme spread throughout Bloodborne is one of futility, that no matter how strong we become, we cannot obstruct the fate of our world. For nearly every boss, there is a negative consequence arriving with their defeat. Released in 2015, Bloodborne is a satisfying exploration of repetition, thematically and mechanically. It's a single, endless night of executions where nothing can truly die, since your own death resurrects nearly every enemy in the world. Number 8, Elden Ring. The main reason for Elden Ring's initial popularity was how difficult the game is. Not only are the battles incredibly challenging, especially with some of the game's most ferocious and deadly bosses, but players are also punished significantly if they die, contrary to most games. Developed by From Software, the third one already on this list, and released in 2022, Elden Ring takes place in the Lands Between, a fictional realm over which several demigods rule. The story of your tarnished character is to fight through the world and try to gather great runes to become Elden Lord, but that simplified explanation belies the fact that you're taking part in the war between various political factions and a bunch of nameless gods, all of whom are vying to control the Lands Between. Number 7, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. Every second of The Witcher 3 is packed with rich characters, phenomenal storytelling, and some of the best quests in RPG history. It's not for nothing that it got the Best Game of the Year award in 2015. The game takes place in a fictional fantasy world based on Slavic mythology, where players control Geralt of Rivia, a monster slayer for hire known as a Witcher, and search for his adopted daughter, who is on the run from the otherworldly Wild Hunt. By focusing on non-linear stories, all of which were self-contained but deeply rooted in The Witcher 3's game world, CD Projekt Red managed to create a wider, more realistic narrative network, and an open world that actually worked. But that is just one of the reasons why this game is so special. Number 6, God of War. Gaming Bible IGN put it to the public in 2021 to vote for the greatest video game of all time, and after more than 25 million votes were counted, they confirmed that 2018's God of War had been crowned the greatest video game of all time, and for good reason, as it is definitely a masterpiece. The game follows the story of Kratos, a demigod who, after the death of his second wife and his son's mother, embarks on a journey with his son Atreus to fulfill her request that her ashes be spread at the highest peak of the 9 realms, all while Kratos keeps his troubled past a secret from Atreus, who is unaware of his divine nature. Number 5, The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. Skyrim captures both hardcore and casuals with its streamlined role-playing design. Its snowy mountain peaks are an incredible discovery space with hundreds of hours of quests and secrets, and thousands of fan-made mods created entire new quests and systems to elongate the game's life for over a decade. Released in 2011, this action RPG was an instant success. Skyrim takes place 200 years after the events of The Elder Scrolls IV, Oblivion. and as the game begins, players are on the verge of being executed when a dragon attacks, freeing them and the captured rebels. As you progress through the game, you can join different factions, increase your skills and learn various shouts. Players have an arsenal of weapons and magic at their disposal, and can battle alongside companions and follow different paths depending on the faction they choose to join. Number 4, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Forget everything you know about the Legend of Zelda games and step into a world of discovery, exploration, and adventure in Breath of the Wild, a boundary-breaking game in the acclaimed series. The Legend of Zelda franchise has been popular since Nintendo published the first game in 1986, and there have been several installments over the years, but none of them is quite like Breath of the Wild. The game introduced elements of chemistry and physics engines, and the designers drew inspiration from Shadow of the Colossus and the Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. The world is unstructured and interactive, and there is often more than one way to solve a problem. Though the game faced criticism for not having more traditional dungeons and items, it still kept to what was central to every Zelda game: exploration and choice. The game also lets you discover the world independently, rather than giving you a list of tasks to complete. As a result, there's plenty to discover and interact with in Breath of the Wild. Number 3, Grand Theft Auto V. Grand Theft Auto V is undoubtedly the biggest video game in history. It revolutionized the gaming world when it was released in 2013, and since then its popularity and sales have not stopped growing, making it become the most sold video game of all time, just behind Minecraft, with almost 200 million copies sold. The game is set in Los Santos, a sprawling sun-soaked metropolis full of self-help gurus, starlets, and fading celebrities. The city was once the envy of the Western world, but is now struggling to stay alive in a time of economic uncertainty and cheap reality TV. Amidst the turmoil, 3 very unique criminals plot their own chances of survival and success: Franklin, a street hustler looking for tangible opportunities and serious money; Michael, a professional ex-con whose retirement is less rosy than he figured it would be; and Trevor, a violent guy driven by the opportunity for a cheap high in his next big score. With options at a premium, the crew risks it all in a myriad of daring and dangerous heists that could set them up for life. Number 2, The Last of Us. 20 years after a pandemic radically transformed known civilization, infected humans run amok, and survivors kill one another for sustenance and weapons. Joel, a salty survivor, is hired to smuggle a 14-year-old girl called Ellie out of a rough military quarantine, but what begins as a simple job quickly turns into a brutal journey across the country. A dad game for the ages, Naughty Dog's punt at a Cormac McCarthy-inspired post-apocalyptic travelogue was one of the riskiest moves in PlayStation history, but with more than 37 million copies sold in the franchise so far, and Season 2 of a critically acclaimed HBO TV show already in the works, it's safe to say Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley's almighty gamble paid off. The Last of Us, which was released in 2013 and won the Game of the Year award, follows the story of Joel and Ellie as they travel across the country to a militant group of revolutionaries called the Fireflies, who hope to synthesize a vaccine. What makes The Last of Us so good is not its strong gameplay or its compelling story, but the way both halves of that equation work together. Number 1, Red Dead Redemption 2. Rockstar Games created a new standard for open-world video games when they released Red Dead Redemption 2 in 2018. We had never seen something quite like it before its release, and we have never seen anything quite like it after. Rockstar outdid its own benchmark for cinematic storytelling and attention to detail with Red Dead Redemption 2. The game is just so well made, so realistic, and so immersive that, within a few hours of play, you'll forget that you are in your room with a controller in your hands, and you'll get transported to the American West in 1899. Released as a sequel for the original Red Dead Redemption 2 is an epic tale of life in America's unforgiving heartland. The game's vast and atmospheric world also provides the foundation for a brand new online multiplayer experience, which you can play once you are done with its intriguing story. After a robbery goes badly wrong in the western town of Blackwater, Arthur Morgan and the Van der Linde gang are forced to flee, and with federal agents and the best bounty hunters in the nation massing on their heels, the gang has to rob, steal, and fight their way across the rugged heartland of America in order to survive. With the game's emotionally driven story, players will watch as Arthur deals with betrayal, loss, and his own morality, his choices and deeds affecting his honor rating. As deepening internal fissures threaten to tear the gang apart, Arthur must make a choice between his own ideals and loyalty to the gang that raised him. So, do you agree with our number 1 pick? Or do you believe there are better games than Red Dead Redemption 2? Let us know in the comments section below. If you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to click the like button, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our weekly top 10 videos. Thank you for watching. This is Who's Number 1, and we will see you in the next video.